Viewer discretion is strongly advised. The following is for educational and entertainment purposes only. What you're about to hear is based on verbatim federal courtroom testimony from the Sean Diddy Combs trial as reported by Inner City Press. The courtroom was silent until she spoke. Dawn Richard, former member of Danity Kane, walked in and changed the energy instantly. This wasn't a pop star making headlines. This was a woman with a story that demanded attention. She described a moment from 2009 in chilling detail. Diddy, she said, came downstairs in a rage at his Los Angeles mansion, furious over a missing phone. Cassie Ventura was nearby. He didn't ask. He demanded. When she didn't respond quickly enough, he hurled a skillet full of eggs at her. Cassie dropped to the floor, curling up in the fetal position. Dawn said he screamed, kicked at Cassie, then grabbed her by the neck and dragged her upstairs. Moments later, the sound of glass shattering filled the house. It wasn't an isolated moment. According to Dawn, this was part of a larger pattern: intimidation, control, fear. She said Diddy managed every detail of the women in his life: where they sat, what they wore, even what they ate. Especially Cassie. She wasn't allowed to leave a room without permission. Her phone was often taken. Family calls discouraged. If she disobeyed, she'd be punished. Canceled shows, revoked privileges, and long silences that left her emotionally stranded. Dawn described a culture where women were both idolized and humiliated. Diddy allegedly called team meetings while in his underwear, berated women in front of entire crews, and kept his female artists in rehearsals for hours with little food or rest. Cassie took the brunt of it. Dawn said she once wanted to step in, but didn't. "If I did," she said, "I honestly believe I wouldn't be here right now." As the prosecution built their case, they introduced an audio recording. It wasn't a voicemail or a confession. It was Cassie, caught in a moment of pure panic. "Delete it," she pleaded to a member of Diddy's inner circle. "I swear to God, if you don't—" The tape cut off. But her fear rang louder than any words. Prosecutors claimed the tape referenced a secret video of Cassie in a freak-off, a sexual encounter, allegedly orchestrated and recorded without her full consent. The recording, they said, had been used as leverage. Diddy's composure cracked, his jaw clenched, his foot tapped under the table. The courtroom watched as the man once known for control seemed to lose his grip on it. Then came the cross-examination. The defense attacked Cassie's mental health, PTSD rehab, therapy. She didn't deny any of it. "Yes," she said, "I went to therapy because I needed to heal from him." The defense dug into her past: old rape allegations, romantic texts, even explicit messages. Cassie didn't flinch. "I was brainwashed," she said. "That's what abuse looks like." When confronted about staying with Diddy while seeing her now husband on the side, she responded, "I didn't have options. I had obligations. I was owned." Another bombshell came in the form of testimony from a former assistant who went by the alias Monica. She described strict rules: no eye contact unless spoken to, and orders to lie to Cassie about Diddy's whereabouts. She said she once overheard Diddy say, "Clean the girl up," referring to a woman passed out after a party. Monica also witnessed an argument where Cassie confronted Diddy about being forced into another freak-off. Diddy allegedly laughed and said, "You belong to me." Cassie walked away crying. These weren't just isolated incidents. They pointed to a system of coercion. Outside the courtroom, the media began revisiting Diddy's old interviews. Once seen as charismatic, now recast as ominous. The prosecution didn't rely on hearsay. They leaned on a disturbing pattern: Witness after witness described a culture of emotional captivity. Then came Aubrey O'Day. The courtroom expected fireworks, and she delivered. She described her time on Making the Band as psychological warfare. Contestants were humiliated, screamed at, and controlled. Off-camera, she claimed, was worse. Aubrey said she saw Diddy throw a laptop across a studio, missing Cassie by inches. She said freak-offs weren't rare, and consent was often assumed. The most damning moment came when she recalled a party in Miami. Diddy allegedly told male executives they could sample the menu. Asked what that meant, Aubrey hesitated, then answered, it meant the women. She described heavy drug use, ecstasy, MDMA, coke. People ask why Cassie didn't leave, Aubrey told the jury. Because when someone controls your music, your money, your body, and your future, you're not in a relationship. You're in prison. By week's end, the image of Diddy, the mogul, the philanthropist, was unraveling. The courtroom saw not just alleged abuse, but a system of control. Multiple former employees confirmed the existence of tapes, private recordings used as insurance. The defense played old clips of Cassie praising Diddy, but the prosecution responded with messages of fear, desperation, and dependency. She wasn't enjoying the ride, one prosecutor said. She was holding on because she didn't know how to let go. And as the jury watched Diddy shrink in his seat, it became clear this wasn't just a trial, it was a reckoning. The week closed with prosecutors presenting a list of over 60 lawsuits, each alleging sexual misconduct, trafficking, or emotional abuse. One involved a victim just 9 years old at the time. The judge recessed for the weekend. Diddy stood, eyes low, surrounded by lawyers, no longer in control of the narrative. For the first time in his career, the man who built an empire on image was being forced to confront the one thing he couldn't manipulate: the truth. Aubrey O'Day's testimony was more than expected. Her voice quivered slightly at first, but settled into a firm cadence as she peeled back the curtain on the world behind Diddy's empire. She recounted the days of making the band not as a stepping stone to fame, but as a controlled environment laced with fear and coercion. According to her, Diddy used humiliation as a tool. Contestants were broken down, mocked publicly, punished for small infractions. It was less a talent competition and more a psychological conditioning camp. She told the jury about the energy in the studio, how Diddy would isolate women, pit them against each other, and use their ambitions as leverage. What started as creative collaboration quickly morphed into psychological warfare. But it was the off-camera moments that left the courtroom in stunned silence. Aubrey recalled the day she walked into a soundproof studio room and found Diddy yelling at Cassie. The screaming echoed off the walls, and as she stood frozen, he threw a laptop that shattered against the wall inches from Cassie's head. No apology, no concern, just fury. She remembered Cassie visibly trembling, unable to respond. She testified about Diddy's infamous private events, gatherings cloaked in glamour but steeped in discomfort. According to her, these weren't simply wild parties. They were curated environments where lines of consent blurred. Women were invited, or more often instructed, to participate. Background dancers, stylists, assistants. It didn't matter. If they were in Diddy's circle, they were on the menu. Her words, not metaphor. When asked to explain, Aubrey hesitated, then said plainly, he encouraged male guests, many of them industry execs, to sample the menu. Her meaning landed with horrifying clarity. It was an ecosystem, she explained,